It's now time for question period. I recognize the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Well, good morning, Speaker. My question is for the Premier. I think I have some pretty incisive questions for him this morning. Last week, Trillium reported that DentaCloud, a company run by the Ford family dentist, received over $2 million from the government Skills Development Fund. This is another instance of taxpayer dollars going to a business with close personal ties to the Premier. So my question to the Premier is, did he give $2 million of government funding to his personal and family dentist?
I recognize the Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, Premier's already said that's incorrect, Speaker, but what we are doing is making sure we've got a next generation of healthcare professionals trained in this province, Speaker. In fact, we were the first, before the federal government, to introduce free dental care for low-income seniors, Speaker. This has been impactful in my community and communities across Ontario. And, Speaker, it's estimated, the Canadian Dental Association, that will require thousands of additional dentists and healthcare professionals to support, Speaker. We're going to keep making investments to support those frontline healthcare professionals, and we're proud to support them on their training journey.
Back to the Leader of the Opposition.
Well, you know, I will say I think the Premier is really putting his money where his mouth is. Skilled workers are getting shut out of training and apprenticeships, all because of this government's underfunding, and then the Premier hands over SDF checks to his dentist. Like, that's what's going on here. Workers falling behind while Conservative donors and lobbyists get a leg up. We've seen it over and over again. Can the Premier explain why his close personal friend and dentist, you know, it's all over. All you have to do is go to the dentist's website. Premier's all over it, right? Why they got $2 million from this government.
The Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I hope I heard that correctly. Sham training, Speaker. Say that to every training union in every corner of Ontario that's benefiting from meaningful training.
St. Catharines will come to order.
Higher completion rates, higher apprenticeship rates. Speaker, we have a record number
for Hamilton West,
of youth
Ancaster,
and
Dundas will come
apprenticeships
to order.
today, thanks to the incredible work that's doing. And that member opposite can't even name one training hall, not one, that she's visited in the last number of weeks, Speaker. I know they've invited her, Speaker, but organized Labour abandoned her because she abandoned them when she opposed 413, opposed the Bradford bypass, opposed actually building, Speaker. That's what these people do. That's why they're supporting this government.
No supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
Say this to the Minister of Labour first. Like, I don't have to engage in this kind of Labour cosplay because they know where I stand, working people in this province. Anyways, look, Speaker, back to the Premier. We know that the government ignored the objective ranking criteria because the minister has admitted that. We know that they handpicked low-scoring applications that benefited their friends and insiders over the stronger applications that would benefit workers. The DentaCloud website brags that they make clients feel as comfortable and relaxed as the Ford family has during visits. The Premier has even said that to get in touch with him or with the dentist, people could just call the Premier's personal phone number. So again, back to the Premier. Could the Premier explain why a private dental clinic with close personal connections to him and his family received $2 million from this government?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, again, that's incorrect, and workers do know where the Leader of the Opposition stands, and it's sure as heck not with them, Speaker. It's not with them. It's not with them, and how do we know that, Speaker? Because if it was up to them, they would have given pink slips to the men and women of Pickering Nuclear Generating Station, Speaker. Not to mention Wesleyville Nuclear, Speaker. They wouldn't even contemplate that, because they can't contemplate nation building, Speaker. They had the opportunity when they propped up the previous Liberal government. They didn't build anything. Not long-term care homes, not new hospitals like Campbellford Hospital in my riding, Speaker, new nuclear generating in Wesleyville, Pickering refurbishment. These are things that are going to put men and women of this province to work, Speaker. It's going to result in a higher number of apprentices training in Ontario. In fact, today we see a record number of youth registering for apprenticeships, a doubling of the number of women registering for apprenticeships. Speaker, this is all meaningful work taking place because the Premier is nation building and it's putting workers to work, Speaker.
I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, trying to get answers from this government is like pulling teeth. I'm going to go back this look. It's and I will say, Speaker, it is very unfortunate that once again the Premier is not present in the House to answer the questions.
Order. The member knows better.
Speaker, last week, Speaker, the government House leader got up in the House to try to lecture me about decorum and our responsibilities as MPPs. So let's talk about it. This same member was removed from his role as housing minister because of his role in the Greenbelt scandal. This member is currently under RCMP criminal investigation, and now the same government is being investigated by the OPP anti-racketeering branch. Is there a single decision this government made that won't require them to be investigated?
I recognize the Minister of Labour.
Speaker, let's talk about decisions this government's made, Speaker.
Order.
A decision to actually realize the potential of the Ring of Fire in the North, Speaker. Premier last week signed another historic agreement, Speaker. We're making important investments into the Ring of Fire with Martin Falls and Webequie, Speaker. This is going to bring unparalleled economic success, driving prosperity in the North, Speaker, which will ensure prosperity across our province. How about a commitment to actually build hospitals and expand healthcare capacity? That's what this Premier is doing. Or schools. Previous Liberal government was famous for shutting them down in rural communities like mine, Speaker. I remember picketing the lines in Norwood with members of my own community when they threatened to shut down Norwood High School. Well, under this Premier, we're building new schools in every corner of Ontario, Speaker, and we're also building critical infrastructure, roads, bridges and highways, Speaker. They're against road building, like they're part of that crazy mantra, Speaker, that doesn't even want to build roads, Speaker. Well, the men and women of the working class, men and women of the skilled trades know that when we build those things...
Supplementary, Leader of the Opposition.
Last month, Speaker, the infamous John Mutton, who we all know as Mr. X, the House Leader will certainly remember him, claimed that he was tipped off by the now Minister of Labour about the government's planned changes to the Greenbelt at a Conservative Party fundraiser. Right? He says the Minister of Labour told him about the changes before any legislative changes or public consultations had started. Last month, Trillium obtained a transcript of an interview where Mr. X told the exact same thing to the Integrity Commissioner under oath. So does the minister still confirm, or does he actually continue to deny this story?
Recognize the member for York South Weston.
We were sent to this House to protect the workers of this province, and that's what this program is doing. 600,000 individuals have been trained. 100,000 have received a job within the first 60 days. Speaker, that's 1 in 6. There is no other program across this country that does that, Speaker. But the Leader of the Opposition continues to attack the unions and she continues to attack the workers, the same unions that invited her. Liuna 183, Liuna, Victoria Manchinelli invited her to visit the same training centers, and she doesn't want to go there, Speaker. She does not want to go there. Maybe she can tell us why. But, Speaker, our job is to protect the workers of this province, and that's what we're doing, and we're not going to take any lessons from the NDP.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
Oh. Well, that sure is tough talk when the minister couldn't get out of here fast enough. Oh, withdrawn.
Order. I will start warning people. The member knows better. The member knows better. The member will withdraw.
I did withdraw. How can anyone believe this minister, though, Speaker? During the Greenbelt scandal, the Integrity Commissioner found that developers had improper influence in deciding which parcels of land would be removed. There are serious allegations that the now Minister of Labour provided privileged information to a lobbyist. And now we have another instance where the same minister has been accused of giving preferential treatment to Skilled Development Fund applicants with close personal ties to this government, even the Premier's family dentist. So, Speaker, how can Ontarians trust a government that is always clouded in scandal?
Member for York South Weston.
Speaker, it's really sad because the leader does all these stunts where she'll mention individuals that are not here knowing that she's not supposed to. But she does these stunts to get the videos, just like the same stunt where she had those protesters, Speaker. But, Speaker, we're here to talk about the workers of this province, and that's what our government continues to do. 1 in 6 workers that have been trained have received a job, Speaker, and that's what this program is about. I'll tell you the story of Joanna, a young lady that immigrated from Venezuela.
Mountain West, Ancaster, Dundas will come to order.
Speaker. And today, she's got a career. She's putting a down payment on a home. That's what this program is about. It's about giving hope to the generation. It's about giving hope to Ontarians. And that's what we'll do. And we will never take lessons from that leader.
Question, the Leader of the Third Party.
Thanks, Speaker. Good morning. And another day, another revelation about the rot that is the Skills Development Fund. And it turns out that the dentist at the centre of DentaCloud, John Magirius, well, he's not just a donor, he's the Ford family dentist. And you remember that DentaCloud got $2 million from this Skills Development Fund. So, you know, there's a show called Stranger Things. This is a stranger thing. How does the Premier's family dentist get $2 million? So, Speaker, I don't know if it can get much stranger than this, but maybe it will. With 700,000 people out of work in this province, how does the Premier justify giving $2 million to his family dentist?
Member for York South Weston.
Speaker, I mentioned in this House a few weeks ago that under his leadership, the leader of the third party, for the third time, nothing in this province was being done. We lost 350,000 jobs that went to the U.S. I mean, he had an opportunity to create the same jobs that we're creating now. 1 in 6 people are getting jobs within 60 days, Speaker. In his riding of Ottawa, I told you the story of Kevin, who put a down payment on his home now, and he's on his way to getting married. This is what this program does, Speaker. 600,000 trained, 100,000 with a job within the first 60 days. Maybe he can tell us what he did when he was in government.
Supplementary, the Leader of the Third Party.
You know, trying to get an answer out of this government on anything to do with Skills Development Fund is like, it's worse than a root canal. And I've had quite a few. So, I know I'm touching a nerve, though, I can tell. So, there's so many connections in this thing. You know, the Premier says, I don't know the dentist, but like the web is full of the dentist, John Magirius and the Premier together, and there's some videos, and they're actually pretty chubby, you know, chummy, kind of hubba chubba. They're talking about each other, having a good time, but the Premier says, I don't know him, never seen him, right? I don't know who he is. That's kind of strange. This denial is a pretty thin veneer. So, Speaker, I guess the question is the Premier on the dentist's family plan, or is the dentist on the Premier's family plan?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, I'm sorry to hear he's had so many root canals. He should eat less candy, Speaker. We're not going to apologize, Speaker, for making investments in healthcare professionals. He had the opportunity, Speaker, when he was parliamentary assistant, and he didn't invest in long-term care homes, didn't invest in the frontline heroes, Speaker. And we know, Speaker, they fired nurses when they had the opportunity, Speaker. So we're going to make investments in healthcare professionals to support their training, Speaker, to make investments in every corner of Ontario to support pathways into meaningful jobs, Speaker. You know, they've had the opportunity to stand up here. They may not like the answers, but the reality is we are investing in meaningful apprenticeship pathways. We're investing in training centres in every corner of Ontario. We're building a stronger Ontario, and we're creating the talent pipeline needed to do it, Speaker.
Leader of the Third Party.
Minister, if there's any decay going on, it's over there. So, whatever the family plan is, we know that there are lots of reward points, right? Lots of reward points that never expire. But ironically, you know, the Premier is sneaking through a piece of legislation that will allow everyday Ontarians reward points to expire, favoring big corporations over everyday Ontarians, rewarding people with the Skills Development Fund, allowing big corporations to take away people's reward points just before Christmas. So, just who is the Premier for? His friends or the everyday Ontarians who need support and help every day?
I recognize the Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Speaker. And I will say to the member opposite of the third party, I will definitely give you an A for acting, but an F for the facts, because you are way off base. Speaker, strong leadership requires a steady hand. It requires being calm. It requires looking at the facts before you speak. And Speaker, what I can say is if these people were in charge during COVID or during our current U.S. tariff war, people would be running for the hills in panic. Speaker, first off, let me be very clear. Absolutely nothing in our bill makes it easier for companies to take away your reward points. Can I repeat that? First off, nothing, absolutely nothing. Are you listening? You're talking over there. Do you want to listen to the facts? Our bill makes it nothing in the bill makes it easier to take away reward points, full stop.
Question, the Leader of the Third Party.
Well, I'll give the minister an S for spin because he's taking away the only protections that exist for reward points in legislation. So he'll have a chance to prove that at committee. But my question is for the President of the Treasury Board. And, you know, I've asked the President of the Treasury Board several times about why Keel Digital Solutions, a company flagged for a forensic audit, under a forensic audit, and they're referred to the OPP, continued to receive money, tens of millions of dollars. So it's hard to understand why the President of the Treasury Board will not even look at me when I ask this question. So I'm going to ask it once more. How is it that a company under a forensic audit in this province can continue to receive taxpayer dollars, tens of millions of taxpayer dollars? How is that?
Back to the Minister of Public Business Service Delivery.
Thank you, Speaker. And, you know, the member of the third party started off this round of questions talking about reward points. And I think he didn't get the answer he wanted because he hasn't gone back to that, as is parliamentary tradition. But let's go back to that. Speaker, our goal is simple. We want to make sure people in this province buy with confidence and keep every dollar they earn in their reward points with confidence. Whether it's your Optimum cards or Petro points, your credit card points, anything online, new protections are actually going to protect those further. Here's what our proposed changes actually do, Speaker. They strengthen consumer protections. They give people more rights, not less. Number one, businesses will have to respond when someone asks for their points back. If your points were frozen, cancelled or disappeared, companies will now have an obligation to respond back to that, and for the first time ever, you will have the opportunity to take legal recourse. Is that not something you can support?
Final supplementary.
The only PC points that this government is taking care of are the ones that they award. That's it. You're taking out protections and legislations on this. But the President of the Treasury Board is refusing to answer these questions. And that's because she doesn't want to be covered with the stench and the stink that's here. The President's job is to protect taxpayers' money. And if you take a look at not just this forensic audit, but the whole of the Skills Development Fund and what the Auditor General said and all the muck and dirt that's there, for the President of the Treasury Board to refuse to respond to the people of Ontario as to what she's doing to protect taxpayers' money, it's just wrong.
Government House Leader.
You know, Speaker, when you became the third party, you got extra dollars for your research. But to recycle your questions over and over every week, you're going to get the same answer.
Right? Speaker.
I was very clear last week. The Ministry of Colleges, Universities,
Member for Orleans will come to order.
And Security did a routine audit where they found enough information back in 2023 to ask for forensic audit. The Ministry of Colleges, Universities, Research Excellence and Security ultimately received the results of that forensic audit, and as has been put into Hansard numerous times, within 24 hours, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, Research Excellence and Security forwarded it to the Ontario Provincial Police. End of story, asked and answered.
Final supplementary.
The clock starts at the end of the first audit that flagged a forensic audit. That's when the clock starts. And that's almost 2 years ago. And the President of the Treasury Board can't answer one single question. Won't even stand up and give a non-answer. What does that tell you, folks? She doesn't want to have anything to do with this, just like the rest of the members over there. $27 million to bars and nightclubs, $10 million to strip clubs, $2 million to the Premier's family dentist. Should I go on? Is there more? What's it going to take for the President of the Treasury Board to stand up and take responsibility for her job, internal audit, and protecting taxpayers' money? Thank you, Speaker.
Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. The results of that audit, I took leadership and I reported it to the OPP within 24 hours. I'll repeat it again because it doesn't look like any of the third parties listening. Within 24 hours, the OPP had the results of that audit. He's shaking his head. I guess he's just not listening that well, Speaker. But you know what? We'll talk about what we are doing for the post-secondary sector that he continues to vote against. Our $1 billion investment in Budget 2025, Speaker, that member voted against, and he continues to vote against, and he seems to be proud voting against our $1 billion that we're investing into post-secondary, Speaker. That whole party seems to be really happy with the fact that they voted against Budget 2025. You continue to stand up here and preach about caring about post-secondary, but you vote down over $2.5 billion that we've invested into the post-secondary sector, and both the third party and the NDP have voted.
The third party will come to order.
They'll continue to vote against the post-secondary sector.
The leader of the third party will come to order. And this is the final time I'm going to ask you to come to order. I will start warning and then naming people. Question? I recognize the member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Premier. The Ford government has provided municipalities with speed limit signs so large that they don't fit on existing poles. They're so big that they could make roads less safe by creating blind spots for children crossing the street. Meanwhile, the government refuses to invest in proven measures that actually slow drivers down. Why is this government more focused on photo ops and supersized speed limit signs than on keeping kids safe?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I can't believe that we have to stand here and talk about a municipality not being able to install a sign, Madam Speaker. That too, when we offered to install those signs for them, gave them over a month's worth of time to do so, Madam Speaker.
I am warning the member for Orleans. Back to the Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. But we continue to be focused on proactive versus reactive measures when it comes to safety, Madam Speaker. We know that time and time again, these cameras, there's specific ones. One, let's take the example from the City of Toronto, issued 70,000 tickets every single year. The number of tickets went up every single year, Madam Speaker. And so what does that tell us? It's not working. These were cash grabs in certain areas, Madam Speaker, so we got to focus on how we can limit the speed at the point of entry. How do you do that? Traffic calming measures.
Response.
Speed bumps, Madam Speaker, is what can help, and that's what the $210 million fund is meant for, and we'll work with municipalities to deploy that.
Back to the member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. It was a mistake to outlaw automated safety cameras in school zone and legislating giant, oversized speed limit signs to replace them are not going to keep kids safe. This Premier will remember Parkside Drive. We have talked about Parkside Drive in this chamber before. Mr. and Mrs. Avila were killed there in 2021. And within days of this Premier's decision to ban speed cameras on Parkside Drive, we have already seen a collision that has put a pedestrian in the hospital. So my question is, how many more people are going to be hospitalized before this government finally takes road safety seriously?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. That's why we're focused on measures that will actually stop individuals from speeding in these zones, like school zones or community safety zones, Madam Speaker. You put a speed bump in place, it is physically impossible for any individual to go through that at a very high speed. Getting a ticket 3 weeks later is not effective, Madam Speaker, and that's why we've moved towards a $210 million fund, which over $42 million has gone to municipalities already to help support additional traffic calming measures that will actually work and reduce the speed within these zones, Madam Speaker. This is in addition to all of the measures that we have put forward. I sat there with and introduced with my colleague, Minister Kersner, the Fall Justice Bill that strengthens provisions on those who are dangerously driving on our roads and imposes lifetime suspensions. Our government will continue to ensure that we build our roads as one of the most safest in the province and the country by ensuring that we have more rules and regulations that hold.
Member for Ajax.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Premier, Christmas is almost here, but you're acting like the Grinch. The Who's in Whoville are not very happy right now. They work hard and they save up their rewards points to spend them over the holidays. So, Premier, why are you trying to pull a fast one on us and take away our hard-earned rewards points?
Yes. Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. And to the member opposite, I would suggest that I gave an answer to this already, but I will repeat myself, and I want everybody in the House and everyone in the province of Ontario, for that matter, to fully understand what is in this bill. Speaker, the Government of Ontario, under Premier Doug Ford, have stood strong with consumers year after year, and this bill is another example of that. And we'll see if the opposition supports consumers, because if they vote against the red tape reduction bill, this is what they're voting against. Businesses right now will have to respond when someone asks for their points back. If your points were frozen, cancelled, or disappear, the company now will have to respond. And, Speaker, for the first time ever, consumers will have the right to take legal action against the company if they unilaterally take away your points. So my question is, who is the real Grinch here? I think it's the opposition. I encourage you to support this bill and side with Santa Claus.
Back to the member for Ajax.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd encourage the minister to reread that bill and Schedule 5 in the bill, because it does take away reward points from the expiry of time, and we're going to leave it up to this government to trust. I don't trust them on this. Premier, you're taking away our only protection on losing reward points. Protecting rewards points is not red tape. People are already stretched thin. Grocery prices are up. Housing's still unaffordable. People are losing their jobs. And young people, they're looking for work. These points are one of the few small breaks that people get. So instead of relief in our Christmas stockings, you're giving us a lump of coal. Mr. Premier, you like to say you're for the little guy, so prove it. Do you stand with the little guy, or do you stand with billionaires?
Back to the minister.
Thank you again, Speaker. I encourage the opposition to really take a look at this bill and understand what's in it. We are standing with consumers. Speaker, let me tell you something. The only people trying to take points away from their families are the ones spreading fear instead of facts. Could you imagine if you're in a movie theater and someone yelled fire and there was no fire? That's what the opposition is doing right now. Nothing expires because of this bill. No one loses anything. And before anything takes effect, career regulations will have to be written and approved in plain sight. Pure fact. The government is standing up for consumers, and we're making sure Ontarians keep what they've earned, and we're giving families stronger tools to fight back when companies don't play fair. So stand with us, stand with the people of Ontario, stand with Santa Claus, support this change. Thank you, Speaker.
I recognize the member for Renfrew-Nipissing Pembroke.
Well, thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement. Speaker, Ontario families work hard for every dollar they earn, and reward points have become an important way for them to stretch their budgets. Whether it's groceries, gas, or everyday purchases, these points help households save money and plan for the future. But, Speaker, there's been a lot of misinformation spread by the opposition about our government's new rewards points policy changes. Ontarians deserve clarity. Withdraw. Ontarians deserve clarity, not scare tactics. That's why our government introduced stronger protections for consumers to ensure families keep the points they've earned. Speaker, can the minister please tell the House how these new reward points protections will safeguard consumers and dispel claims being spread by the Liberals?
Back to the Minister of Business and Public Service Delivery and Procurement.
Thank you, Speaker, and what a great question from a great member. I mean, you really understand. You've read the bill. Thank you. Speaker, our government's reward policy is about protecting families and ensuring they keep what they've earned. Let me be crystal clear. Nothing in our bill makes it easier for companies to take away your points. That claim from the Liberals is simply not true. The current rules already stop companies from wiping out points just because time has passed, and those protections remain in place. What our changes do is strengthen consumer...
For Ajax has been warned.
For the first time ever, companies will be required to respond when points are frozen, cancelled, or disappear, and consumers will have the right to take legal action to get those points back. We're also giving the government power to introduce strong rules against unfair expiration, cancellation, or suspension of reward points. That means new disclosure requirements, penalties, and remedies to protect the people of Ontario.
The member for Ranford-Nipissing, Pembroke.
Speaker, protecting consumers means more than passing legislation. It means delivering measurable results that Ontarians can trust. Families want to know that their points are safe, that companies are held accountable, and that transparency is guaranteed. The Liberals have been spreading fear, suggesting people will lose their points, but Ontarians deserve the truth. Speaker, can the minister tell us how these reward points changes will ensure real accountability and deliver measurable protections for families across Ontario?
The member for Beaches East York will come to order. Back to the minister.
Thank you, Speaker. I think the Liberals are getting a little upset with our response to their questions on this particular issue. But, Speaker, accountability is the backbone of awards points policy. And for the first time ever, families will have the legal tools to fight back when companies don't play fair. Speaking, nothing expires because of this bill. No one loses anything. Before any new rules take effect, clear regulations will be written and in plain sight. What our changes do is strengthen consumer rights. For the first time ever, companies will be required to respond when points are frozen. Speaker, let's talk about who's really playing the Grinch here. The Liberals have voted against every single measure we've put forward to save Ontarians money, from cutting the gas tax, scrapping license plate sticker fees, banning tolls, freezing driver's license fees, introducing one fare ODSP, cutting income taxes for low-income workers. Speaker, we'll take no lessons from the Liberals and the ones who are spreading fear and misinformation. And this Christmas, they'll be getting nothing but coal in their stockings.
I recognize the member for Niagara Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Through you to the Minister of Health. Last week we learned that Niagara Health will be eliminating nearly 100 jobs in hospitals across the Niagara region. These jobs are being eliminated to deal with a deficit of $26 million caused by this provincial government. The same thing is playing out in hospitals all across the province, as already understaffed hospitals struggle to deal with deficits created by this government's negligence. Will this minister apologize to hospital workers and patients in Niagara and across Ontario and provide the funding necessary to protect these jobs?
Thank you, Speaker. For every year over the last 3 years, the ministry has increased operational funds to hospitals by $1 billion every year for the last 3 years. And earlier this year, the minister required all hospitals in the province of Ontario to present a 3-year plan to make sure that all hospitals reach a balanced budget within the next 3 years. And we believe that is responsible for us to ask for that plan. All of the hospitals have complied and have submitted their plans, and we anticipate that they will have the operational funding going forward. Just as a reminder, that is an additional $1 billion that was financed to hospitals in the province of Ontario every year for the last 3 years. That's a total of $3 billion over the last 3 years, and we do believe that it is right for the government to ask hospitals to reach balance. Thank you.
Back to the member for Niagara Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. The minister has made a habit of blaming local hospitals and local hospital boards for her own government's incompetence, as if it's a coincidence that 50% of Ontario hospitals are dealing with deficits. All across Ontario's, in cities like North Bay and Ottawa, this government is pushing hundreds of overworked hospital workers out the door at Christmas time due to deficits created by their own neglect and incompetence. This government says they support workers. This Premier says he is supporting Ontario jobs. When will this Premier and this Minister finally find the courage to do their own job?
Speaker, the hospitals in Ontario have received an additional funding allocation of $1 billion every year for the last 3 years for their operations. The member specifically referred to North Bay, and North Bay Hospital specifically had an increase of $50 million since 2020, which constitutes a 20% increase in that North Bay Hospital's budget since 2020. We believe that it is appropriate for the ministry to require hospitals to reach a balanced budget situation, and for that reason, the minister has required that hospitals submit a 3-year plan to demonstrate that they will reach a balanced budget within the next 3 years. We believe that demonstrates the responsible use of taxpayers' money, and we will continue supporting our hospitals both in their operational phases and in their capital programs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Toronto St. Paul's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Premier. At this time of year, people in Toronto St. Paul's and right across the province are stretching every penny, say, using those rewards points they saved up all year long to have for the holidays. They're doing everything they can to make the holidays feel normal for their families. And while they're tightening their belts, this government is handing out millions of taxpayer dollars through the Skills Development Slush Fund with almost no accountability. At the same time, renters are being squeezed by above-guideline increases that no one can reasonably afford. So through you, Speaker, to the Premier, how does he keep enabling his minister, who shows so little respect for taxpayer money and so little respect for the people just trying to stay housed?
I recognize the minister.
Thank you. And to the member opposite, and to the people of Ontario, I'm so thrilled that we have Premier Doug Ford and this progressive Conservative government leading the province of Ontario right now, because this is a government that has put forward consumer protection legislation, affordability measures. We are the government that supported cutting the gas tax, scrapping license plate sticker fees, banning tolls, freezing driver's licenses, cutting income taxes for low-income workers, the largest tax cut in the history of Ontario, raising the minimum wage, cutting tuition, college, universities, 10% reduction, frozen for a number of years. You voted against it. You have stood against every affordability measure that we have put through this House. This government stands on the side of the consumers and the people of Ontario.
Back to the member for Toronto St. Paul's.
Thank you. Well, Speaker, the people in my community aren't asking for much. They just want stability. They want fairness. They want a government that doesn't treat public money like a gift bag for political friends while ignoring renters who are being pushed to the brink. And that's why I introduced the Protecting Renters from Unfair AGIs Act, because this government clearly is more concerned defending its own minister who's signing checks to the Ford family dentist, more concerned about that than helping the tenants and giving them the security that they deserve. So I'm going to ask the Premier again, why is this government rewarding insiders while refusing to protect?
This has nothing to do with the original question. Next question. Next question. Next question. I recognize the member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Speaker. This is just ridiculous, and I don't even know the proper answer for it because it's so silly. You're asking your question. You're asking my question. All right.
Next question. Next question. I recognize the member for Scarborough Southwest.
Very much, Speaker. Speaker, last week, good morning, Premier. Last week, the Premier said, and I quote, "Get that damn thing moving," when asked about the Eglinton LRT. So my question to the minister is, will he?
Recognize the Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As we stated earlier today, we are on the last day of revenue service demonstration for the Crosstown project, after which it will follow the exact same process as Finch did. We will mark substantial completion shortly thereafter in the next week, Madam Speaker, and the line will then go over to the TTC members, who will then tell us and work with us on an opening date, Madam Speaker. So we are committed to getting this line open today. We are on the last day of revenue service demonstration, and we'll continue to build transit across this province. Unfortunately, I hope that the members across, whether it be the NDP Liberals, support this government in our $70 billion investment into public transit, which to date they haven't.
Back to the member for Scarborough Southwest.
15 long years, countless delays, cost overruns, opaque bureaucracy, over 100 vice presidents, all on the public dime, and no opening date. In fact, someone actually hired a mariachi band to celebrate a quinceañera for the Eglinton LRT. It's getting that ridiculous. The Premier now has said that he will find out when the opening date is. How is it possible that nobody in this government knows what's going on? Not the Minister, not the Premier. So will the Premier or the Minister get up and give us an actual answer as to what's going on, what on earth is going on with the Eglinton LRT?
I recognize the Premier.
Through you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I got a soft spot for this MPP. Yeah, I do, from Scarborough and so on and so forth. But let me just remind her that it was a disaster started under the Liberal government. I was sitting at the table with my brother, 15 years ago, and we were saying, let's do it this way. But the Liberal government said, no, we're doing it that way. But I agree with your frustration. We're finally getting it going. But the good news story is Eglinton West was 6 weeks ahead of time. We're making a lot of groundwork on Ontario Line. One of the toughest builds you could ever do is build underneath the city. We're expanding Scarborough Subway that the Liberal government would always vote against. When I was a city council and when I was mayor, build the Scarborough Subway. They refused to build it. Finally, the people of Scarborough, because our government, we're giving them love. And we're doing the Young extension as well, the LRT out in Mississauga.
I recognize the member for Ottawa Vanier.
Thank you, Speaker. Franco-Ontarians tenants continue to face serious barriers at the Landlord and Tenant Board. The board still doesn't have enough bilingual judges, and Francophone tenants are stuck with clumsy interpretation procedures that make it harder for them to tell their story and defend their rights. The minister keeps saying that there aren't enough Francophone applicants for judicial appointments, but qualified candidates do exist. People like Professor Gilles Levasseur, who has applied 4 times, met every requirement, and still gets rejected at the ministerial stage. What message does that send to Francophones who simply want equal access to justice? So I will ask the Attorney General, when will the government appoint more Francophone judges and ensure that Francophone tenants have real, equitable, bilingual access to a fair landlord and tenant board?
I recognize the Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And it is true that 1.5 million Ontarians do speak French, and 620,000 Ontarians identify as Francophone, Madam Speaker. This is a very important part of Ontario. And I've been working with our Access to Justice and French Advisory Committee that we established in 2018, and it provides linkages between the government and places like the Landlord Tenant Board. Madam Speaker, last year the annual report indicates that we had 835 hearings in French, and tribunals overall has 39 bilingual adjudicators that are cross-appointed to more than one tribunal. So the services are being provided, Madam Speaker, and we look forward to improving as we go. Everything can be improved, but we are providing the service, and we're providing the service in French. If there are improvements, happy to make them. I guess my question back to the member, Madam Speaker, is how she knows what landed on my desk.
Back to the member for Ottawa Vanier.
Thank you. Madam Speakers, we can improve the procedures, and I've given cues to the ministers about how to do that. He just needs to get the action. Instead of helping tenants by fixing the board, this government keeps making life easier for bad landlords. Now with Bill 60, which will fast-track evictions and push even more vulnerable people out of their homes. In Ottawa Vanier, where tenants already struggle to get help in French, Bill 60 will mean even more families showing up at Action Logement for help when the organization is already stretched to the limit. You don't solve the housing crisis by putting more people on the street. So I will ask the Attorney General, when will this government recognize the real-world impact of Bill 60 and ensure its housing policies protect tenants, Francophone tenants included, instead of making their situation worse?
Response, I recognize the Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The opposition asks us to make sure that individuals have hearings both in French and in English. And so when we bring forward reforms to tighten up the system and make sure that we continue to bring down the backlog, which we have brought down by over 80% at this point, Madam Speaker, when we make it possible for tenants to have those hearings faster so that they can have their matters resolved, we're hearing that they don't support that. At the same time, they're saying that they don't want those improvements, but they want us to go faster. They don't want those improvements, but they want us to tilt the board towards something that will not help anybody, Madam Speaker. So we won't apologize for this continuous improvement. As I said, we have 39 bilingual adjudicators. That's 10% of all the adjudicators available for French language services, and we are providing that service. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question. I recognize the member for Kingston Frontenac, Lanark, Kingston Frontenac.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Red Tape Reduction. Ontario families want to know that our healthcare system is strong, modern, and able to deliver the world-class care they need when and where they need it. Speaker, under the previous Liberal government, healthcare professionals seeking to practice in Ontario faced unnecessary and significant bureaucratic delays. Our government recognized that the status quo is not working. We are taking action to protect Ontarians and ensure patients receive the care they deserve. Our government has been clear. Cutting red tape is essential to strengthening our healthcare system and keeping Ontario competitive. Speaker, can the minister explain how our government's as-of-right changes of healthcare professionals are helping to protect Ontario families and reinforce our healthcare system?
Recognize the Minister of Red Tape Reduction.
Thank you, Speaker. And, this is another example of how our government inherited a system and a government that said no. We're building a system and a government that says go. Speaker, enough of the it's not just about deregulation, it's about modernization. We said enough to the red tape. We need to reduce the barriers. If a doctor could practice in Saskatchewan, they can practice here in Ontario, and every Ontarian is better off. Speaker, this is yet another example of how we're putting people above paperwork. We're putting people in the centre of everything we do, and we're embracing technology. We've already heard feedback from doctors using AI Scribe that has been able to reduce their paperwork by 71%, freeing up 95,000 hours every year, allowing them to do what they do best, which is take care of patients. Thank you.
Back to the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Speaker, and I want to thank the minister for her leadership. Speaker, the previous Liberal government, backed by the NDP, left Ontario with outdated systems and endless paperwork. They slowed down services and made life harder for families. But today, our government is doing the opposite. We are modernizing healthcare, cutting red tape, and protecting Ontario. That includes using technology to help health professionals spend more time with patients and less time on paperwork. Speaker, can the minister explain how AI scribes are helping reduce administrative burdens and what the results have been so far?
Back to the Minister of Red Tape Reduction.
Thank you, Speaker. And AI Scribe is another example of how we're modernizing our system. We're putting people in the heart of everything we do. And, Madam Speaker, it shows that we inherited a system that punished ambition. Instead, we're replacing one that rewards ambition. Speaker, we're going to be unlocking every sector of our economy, from healthcare to our critical minerals, to manufacturing, to forestry, manufacturing, and the auto sector, all which have been mired by red tape. Speaker, thanks to this government, we're unlocking the opportunity so it moves as fast as the people ready to seize those opportunities. It's all under leadership of Premier Ford, and we will not stop reducing red tape. This is why we're building on a record of reducing $1.2 billion in red tape every year for businesses and people, and we're reducing $1.8 million for those individuals. And Speaker, we will not stop. We'll continue to protect Ontario.
I recognize the member for London North Centre.
Speaker, my question is to the Premier. This morning, Feed Ontario released their report, and every MPP has a copy on their desk. It tallies 8.7 million food bank visits, an increase of 13% since last year, a staggering 165% since Premier Ford cruelly scrapped rent control. 1 million people in Ontario use the food bank. 1 in 4 users are working. But 30% of food bank users, 30% are children. Wow. The holidays are coming. Children and families are suffering. Let that sink in for a minute. Is Premier Ford for the people, or is he for the poverty?
I recognize the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madame la Présidente. Merci pour cette
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the member for this very important question.
You know, Madam Speaker, there's no question that this government, since day one, I'll repeat, day one, has been focused on affordability for all Ontarians. That's why we highlighted in our fall economic statement again that we've put $12 billion back in the pockets of the hardworking people and families of Ontario. That's why we acted early to put more money back in people's pockets for gas, so that we cut the gas tax, brought that down 10 cents a litre along with cap and trade. We obviously took the tolls off the 412, the 418, the 407 East. And for those who are taking transit, taking one integrated fare, saving people up to $1,600 a year. This is the type of measures this government is doing, putting more money back in all Ontarians' pockets.
Back to the member for London North Centre.
Speaker, the minister says they're focused on affordability, but it's pretty clear that they are failing. Yeah. I mean, if this government wants to pretend it's running like a business, their business is under our CMP investigation. Their business has stickers that don't stick. Their business had disappearing license plate, and their business is being investigated by the OPP for the Anti-Racketeering Division. In fact, their business would cost every single Ontarian $27,000. Yeah. It's clear that this government is having a party with the public purse. Food bank usage is an early predictor of homelessness, and Ontario's jobs disaster and affordability disaster premier is putting organizations at risk as well. 2/3 of food banks are concerned about operating for the next 6 months. 1 in 2 are worried they won't have enough food. 1 in 3 will have to pause, reduce, or end services. The Premier clearly has a grift strategy and a donor strategy, but where is his strategy to help people who are at risk of homelessness?
I recognize the Premier.
Well, I want to thank the member for his question. I just find it ironic that the member votes against everything that we do. And I want to remind him also, last month, the job numbers came out. Last month, 350 million people in the U.S. created 119,000 jobs. 350 million, 119,000. In Canada, there was 65,000 jobs created, but guess what, folks? 55,000 of those jobs are created right here in Ontario. And the reason being, because we've never ever raised a tax. We've seen $70 billion of investment into our province. $40 billion alone investment right here. But most important thing, there's 1,080,000 more people that have a job than when you folks were in charge, because you chased 300,000 jobs out of this province. We've created the environment for our province to thrive and prosper. With infrastructure, $220 billion. We're building hospitals, we're building roads, we're building bridges, we're building schools, and you vote against it every single time. That's what we're doing. You're all about raising taxes. We're all about cutting taxes and creating jobs.
A reminder, I am warning people. I recognize the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Speaker. And, I'm still trying to get my head around this Skills Development Fund. And, we have vet clinics, we have software companies, we have lawyers, we have $27 million to bars and nightclubs in downtown Toronto, $10 million to the owner of a strip club, and now we have a dentist, John Magirius, who's at the center of DentaCloud that got $2 million from the Skills Development Fund. But he's not just a donor, he's the Ford family dentist. So my question to the Premier is, how is it that the Premier has sent $2 million of Skills Development Funds to the Ford family dentist?
I recognize the Minister of Labour.
Speaker, let me help him wrap his head around it. It's not true, Speaker. It's not true at all. Speaker, what we have done is launch a fund in the wake of the pandemic to help people get jobs, Speaker, with monthly reporting, visits on to visit the training, Speaker, financial audits, improving after every round, and improving with the recommendations of the Auditor General, Speaker. We're going to keep training people. I know it's a concept hard for them to understand because they chased 300,000 jobs out of Ontario. Last month alone, 55,000 jobs right here, over 55,000 in Ontario, Speaker. And to create the conditions for that, Speaker, you got to have talent pipelines. And that's what we're doing. Training in every corner of Ontario. He's never visited one union training hall, Speaker, not one. I'd invite him out to see, because these men and women are getting to work thanks to investments of this Premier in roads, in highways, in bridges, in hospitals that couldn't build, in long-term care homes he couldn't build when he was in charge. Speaker, we're going to keep getting the job done, creating meaningful employment opportunities for Ontarians.
Back to the Leader of the Third Party.
I don't know about you, Speaker, but whenever the Premier flashes those pearly whites, all I'm going to think is Skills Development Fund. So I know that they're denying that any relationship exists, and the Premier has said that publicly. But there's pictures of them together all over the web. There's a video, and they look pretty friendly. They look like they've known each other for a while. They're pretty, as they like to say, hubba chubba. So how is it that when Ontarians are struggling just to pay the bills, they can't even afford a dentist, that the Premier is sending $2 million of skills development funds to the family dentist?
I recognize the Minister of Labour.
Speaker, that's just weird, Speaker. Speaker, this government is fighting for a stronger Ontario, nation building, something impossible for them to understand, Speaker, after driving 300,000 jobs out of this province. We're creating those conditions. The Ring of Fire in the north, it's going to require a next generation of miners, like Jennifer, who I've referenced in this House, supported through the Skills Development Fund, Speaker, or Windsor, Speaker, the incredible investments in automotive, Speaker. We're investing in hospitals, in bridges, in highways, Speaker. They oppose, like literally, Speaker, the Liberal Party today opposes building roads. That's why they didn't win a single seat in Brampton, Speaker, because they opposed the 413 and the Bradford bypass, Speaker. We're going to keep building for a stronger Ontario, standing up to President Trump, making sure Ontarians have meaningful training opportunities, rapid training opportunities that can help them upskill to land a better job with a bigger paycheck, and that's all happening right here in this Ontario, Speaker.
I recognize the member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Associate Solicitor General for Auto Theft and Bail Reform. Speaker, Ontario families and residents expect government to put their safety first. They are concerned about media reports of violent offenders being released on bail only to reoffend as soon as they are back on the street. They know the bail system is broken and they want to see change. That's why our government has been steadfast in our demand for meaningful bail reform. Speaker, can the Associate Solicitor General explain how our government is standing up on behalf of Ontarians and leading the call for tougher bail laws to keep offenders off our streets?
The Associate Minister of Auto Theft.
Thank you, Speaker. My colleague is right. Our government has been consistent and unequivocal on the need for bail reform in this country. For far too long, Canada's broken bail system has let out repeat offenders onto our streets. Under this Premier's leadership, our government is saying enough is enough. We have been in constant contact with the federal government in our effort to push hard for meaningful bail reform. And Speaker, our calls for action are working. Recent amendments to the Criminal Code in Bill C-14 include several measures our government has been campaigning for, such as reverse onus bail provision for certain serious offences, new aggravating factors of sentencing, and the possibility of consecutive sentencing. These changes are a good starting point towards a stronger criminal code that puts the rights of hardworking, law-abiding Canadians first and keep criminals where they belong, behind bars.
Back to the member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Associate Solicitor General for the response. While Bill C-14 appears to be a solid step in the right direction, the job isn't done. The reality is we are seeing violent crime and repeat offenders being released back into our communities, putting families at risk. Speaker, no one in our province should feel unsafe in their home or in their community. Since day one, our message has been clear. Offenders must be held accountable for their actions. Speaker, can the Associate Solicitor General share some details on what our government is doing to keep our communities safe and to put and keep repeat offenders behind bars?
I recognize the Associate Solicitor General.
Thank you, Speaker. Just last month, our government introduced Keeping Criminals Behind Bars Act, which contains proposed changes designed to strengthen justice in this province. The provisions in this bill are significant, and if passed, will help keep our communities safer. Key changes include mandating that accused person or sureties deposit entire cash specified by a court as a surety upon release, introducing stronger collection tools such as wage garnishment, asset seizure and sales, and property liens to recover unpaid bail amounts, establishing a surety database to improve efficiency and thoroughness of surety screening, strengthening enforcement and oversight capabilities, including expansion of provincial bail prosecution teams. If passed, these changes will help to restore confidence and fairness in the justice system, but we will not stop there. Our government will continue to stand with victims of crime, push for stronger criminal code with real consequences for those who break our laws and protect Ontario. Thank you.